NBF Coffee Chats. I think, unfortunately, we are full now. All the 100 seats are full, and so if you've got friends trying to get in, please direct them to our NMBF Coffee Chats YouTube channel, where this session is live right now. Yeah, I welcome you all once again. For in the name of God, and this is NMBF Coffee Chats is essentially a Christian talking point, and we are so thankful that you have all joined, and especially Dr.Alka Ganesh, who is such a great heart, who was freely and graciously come here to share her knowledge and experience. So we just really want to thank God for providing her this evening, for all of us to give some direction. This is not going to be some kind of a solution lecture, but it will definitely give us some pointers and understanding as to where we are at, and what we are facing. So before we begin the session, since this is a church-based program, as is our custom, I request Sam to lead us with a word of prayer. Yes, Sam, would you? Sam, yeah, you're on mute, Sam. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, shall we just give this time into God's hand? Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day, for this beautiful time of evening that you've given us to just be together and to come and bow down in your presence and to just submit ourselves to you, Lord. Lord, all that we have comes from you. And so this evening, Lord, we want to hear from you through your resource person here, Dr. Alka Ganesh. Father, we just ask, Lord, that you will help us all to learn how to take care of our elderly. Lord, we know that India is aging fast, and Lord, so there's a huge need for this knowledge. And we pray that you, as you have promised in your word, that you will give to all those who ask wisdom from you, Lord. And so we just commit this time into your hands. Help us to be attentive, help us to learn, and help us also to reach out to people who need your help by serving you, Lord. We give you praise and honor and ask this in your precious and matchless name, Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Yeah. Thank you, Sam. Okay. I'll be putting our NMBF Coffee Chats, number. If you want to be in touch with us, we like to organize several such programs for the community also and the society. So if you'd like to be in touch with us, kindly check the chat box after some time. We'll be putting our contact number there. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to take this time to extend a warm welcome to Professor Alka Ganesh, who's here. And she has, done her MBBS from CMC Vellore, 1970. In 1970, she's an MD, internal medicine from Delhi University. She did her MD from Delhi University in internal medicine in 1975. She has been the faculty and head of Department of Medicine, CMC Vellore, 1978 to 2008. Registrar at the Department of Metabolic Medicine, Newcastle on Tyne, UK, 1981. She studied geriatric medicine training at Newcastle on Tyne, UK, in 1996. She's been the visiting professor at the university in Malaysia at Sarawak from 1999 to 2000. Started medical education unit at CMC in 2004. Started family medicine department at CMC Vellore 2008. Distinguished Teacher Award NBE 2014. Full-time at GKNMH Coimbatore, geriatric consultant teaching, DNB medicine, and course director physician assistant degree course. From 2010 till present 2018, and currently she is involved in part-time teaching. So welcome, ma'am, a warm welcome to you, and we are so thankful that you have graciously, kindly, and freely come here to give your time and help us all who are really seeking direction and wisdom in this area. So over to you, ma'am. So yeah, so we'll be having a presentation, and after that we'll go into Q&A. Yeah. Yes.
And so can I share my screen?
Yes, yes, ma'am, you can.
Okay, so good evening to all, and thank you so much for uh, coming and listening to this. I was invited by Abhijit to come and speak, and I was not quite sure what and how much to speak, because this is such a very big topic. And he expressed that people are finding it so challenging and difficult to look after the elderly people. The elderly people are finding it difficult themselves, whether they are well or they're not well. And so why don't we just have a Q&A session, a chatting session? So I said, okay. And then we decided that perhaps I should just speak, just give a little presentation so that we can kickstart the conversation. And I would welcome, after my talk is going to be very short, I would welcome as many as possible to come up with their difficulties. Either you're an older person or you're a person who's caring for an older person. And it's not that I'm here to give solutions, but maybe we can just discuss as to what is going wrong and how we can take it from there. So to start with, I put up this slide to tell you that the United Nations in 1990 brought out their rights, the Charter for the Rights of the Older Person. Because till then, when you grew old, you were marginalized, you were on the sidelines, you finished your life and you're on the heap, so to speak. And United Nations got the opinion of the whole world, and they came up with this, which was a new way to look at older people. They said they must have independence, they must be able to participate, they're not on the sidelines, they need care, they should have self-fulfillment, and the most important, they must have dignity. And so if you expand all that into smaller bits, you come to, there's a right to life, right not to be treated in an inhuman or degrading way, the right to be free, the right to respect for private and family life, home, and correspondence, the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and not to be discriminated against because of their old age or because of any other label that they wear, ageism, and the right to peaceful enjoyment of their possessions. And this is very important because the younger people then feel that it's anyway going to come to us and we might as well get it earlier rather than later. The right to education, and this is a surprise because you would have thought that the older person by then has finished the education, but it's well known that you could continue to learn throughout your life. And then the right to an adequate standard of living. So many of these are not exclusive. They could mean the same thing, but it spells out that an older person needs some specific directions. Younger people need specific directions, or society needs specific directions, that these are rights which are universal, but particularly so for elderly because they were not considered as needing those rights. And then United Nations has declared this decade, 2021 to 2030, as the decade of healthy aging. And this is a very important concept because we think of older people as being ill, being dependent, and just that much nearer the grave. So while the last may be true, we are a little bit nearer the grave, but we have the right to be healthy as we step into that, into the next life. And it's not just prevention of illness, but one step forward, the promotion of health. So this is a little different from just preventing illness. It's actually promoting, because as we age, there is no question that the body, every organ does degenerate. There is no question. But can this process not be accelerated at least? Can this process, which depends not only on our genes, but also depends upon our environment? How can we cannot do anything to our genes, but how can we maximize the environment which will slow down rapid aging and allow us to age as it is destined to be, or as the genes demand it or program it to be? Because the idea is not to live longer at all costs. The idea is to live your lifespan, what is allotted to you. Some people may feel that there's no such thing as a higher being allotting, but I think here we all believe that yes, there is a script laid out for us. It's just that we need to be healthy right up to the end as far as possible. So today I'm only going to, geriatrics is a very, very large topic. And sadly, in the medical field, there are very few people who have taken this up, though in our country now, there's a lot of emphasis and there are a lot of departments of geriatrics, too few still, but coming up, so that there are now medical people who are trained to look specifically at the problems of the elderly. Because as we know, it's specialization right through. The elderly have to go from neurologist to cardiologist to urologist, whatever, and that is required. But there is nobody really to put all these advice together and give it and prepare the elderly person to take these different advice. So you might say, what about our family doctor? What about the internal medicine? Certainly, I think every family doctor, general physician must know about the essence of geriatrics. We do not need geriatric specialists. The geriatric specialists are here to just train everybody else, every doctor, that when it comes to an older person, you do need a little bit of modification of treatment. So, but today we're not going to talk about the illnesses, the specific illnesses of the elderly. We're only going to talk about how do we in society care for our older people, and what are the different problems that we must look at. So where do we care? Sometimes older people decide to stay in their own homes because they are healthy, they are independent, and they say, we will continue to live like this as long as possible. And that's a good idea, except that there are problems. Many people, of course, choose to move in with their children. Mostly it is the son's house, and so it is the poor daughter-in-law who gets the flag for anything that goes wrong. But sometimes people do move in with their daughters, but in our Indian society, that is not somehow considered to be a very good thing. So be that as it may, elderly people, many of them do move in as grandparents into their children's homes, and that is absolutely ideal, we think, but let's look at some of the problems that may arise from that. And then there are many others who live in community homes or institutions. They could be private if the person has a lot of money. It could be charitable organizations. Many faith-based organizations run these charitable institutions. And then even non-faith-based like HelpAge India has some. And then the government also has many old age institutions. So people do live in institutions, and perhaps that is much to be desired in those areas. And then, of course, there are destitute shelters. And I just picked up this statistic from the net that there are 18 million destitute elders in India. And that is such a sad reflection of our country and how we are treating the elderly people. But there are some, I don't think these shelters care for all the 18 million, but at least there's something. So let's look at all these areas, these particular things, and see what is it that needs to be rectified. So the challenge is, if you're living alone in your own house, if the elder person, either single or a couple. Usually, I think we all know that women's lifespan is a good 8 to 10 years more than a man's lifespan. And you might think, oh, that's nice, women are lucky. But actually, they're not lucky, because many of them are, they will be widows. And in our society, widows are really very, very inauspicious, as they say in our culture, and they are not really given much importance and care. And then they suffer from a lot of illnesses. So there really is no benefit from this longer life that they have. So whether you're living alone or as a spouse, it's worse if you're living alone. This factor of loneliness is very, very important. There is difficulty in the daily run of life. If you have to do shopping, banking, though banking now most of us would do electronically from our homes, the elderly people may not be equipped to do that and may have to actually physically go to a bank. Fixing appliances, your flush doesn't work or something else doesn't work. You need somebody to come in and do these things. Health and illness. Most elderly people are not aging actively. They are not healthy. Though it's not, we always say old age is not equal to disease, but sadly it is equal to disease for many people. And even if they don't have a disease, the process of aging makes them unstable. They have a lot of falls. They require a lot of medications, which they themselves can give rise to falls. They have to remember to take the medications on time. Many of them may be otherwise all right, but have incontinence. And that is so degrading to those people and to those who live near them. And people say, oh, yeah, anyway, you're old. I mean, this happens, old age, don't crib about it. But that's so far from the truth, because incontinence is not, though it is worse when you age, there are treatments for it. And I think we have some urologists and they would probably nod their heads and say, yes, yes, we can do something for incontinence. And then memory loss, whether we all know about dementia. Dementia is the most terrible disease in which it's a disease. But even though you may not have dementia, there is something known as normal memory loss or mild cognitive impairment. And all this adds to the drudgery and of life, of normal life, and makes it that much more worse. And then, of course, preparing your meals by yourself. So many people would just have a tiffin carrier or something brought in and eat out of that, and because of convenience, not because they like the food. And then, of course, transport. It's very difficult in India to use public transport. If you have your own car, you're probably not allowed to drive it anymore, or your family have said you can't drive it, and you don't want to take Uber in the post-pandemic times. So living alone has got so many challenges that most people just throw in the towel and they say, let's come and live with you, or they go to a retirement home. Now let's come and see what happens when they do go and live with their family. And you might say, what a lovely thing it is. And yes, it is nice to live with your family, but look at the older person's problems. There's a lack of privacy. They have to adjust to the generation gap. Usually there are 3 generations living in that house, and each generation has got their own needs and requirements, and the older person has to adjust within that. And the older person is the one who has to adjust the most, probably. They could feel alone in the middle of a crowd. That sounds like an oxymoron. But yes, while everybody else is talking about something exciting, like it could be Wimbledon or it could be something else happening, the older person either cannot hear or is not interested or cannot see. And so they are excluded and marginalized. And nobody really realizes that, or even if they do, there's not much time to think about this person who's alone in the crowd. And putting all these things together, there is a general feeling of being disempowered. And to a person who might have held a very high position, may have been head of whatever organization, or even if he was just a respected member of a company, he had a role, he had authority, or she had authority, and then suddenly they are worthless. Nobody wants their services. They feel the disempowerment, and also they really don't know. And I don't know whether this is just now because of the internet. Those elderly people who have missed that internet phase and didn't learn it, they feel now we just don't know how to navigate. Everything's changed, and they have to ask even their grandchildren which button to press on the computer. And then the most shameful of all is, in all this, some abuse also happens. And elder abuse is a very big topic, and we can talk about it some other time. But look at the plus points of living with your family. They have the security. Their finances are usually looked after. They have companionship, though they might feel alone, but it is there should they try to adjust to it. And then, of course, nutrition, which is so important in health of the aging person. At least they can get proper meals. Now, there's always the other side of the coin. What about the son, the daughter, the children of the older person with whom he is sharing the home? They also have problems. They'll also lack the privacy and living space, which may not be freely available in a middle-class family, has to be given over to this older person. Then family discords arise so often because the older person fails to or feels that I really must put an end to all this nonsense that's going on. And it was not, we did not do it like this in our days. And the younger people feel your days are over. It is now our days. And so a lot of conflict and discord takes place over there. And then, of course, for the son and daughter, especially the daughter, the extra burden of maybe having to provide special meals because the older person has requirements because of his health. There may be other health needs, has to remember to give the medications. That person may not be mobile, so have to look after their mobility. And then, of course, the most difficult thing to manage is the incontinence, you see. And then if they want to go on a family holiday, how do they leave the older person alone? When they as a nuclear family want to go somewhere, it becomes extremely difficult. But then again, there are always the plus points. If they want to go out for a dinner or attend the office party or whatever, they have a ready-made childminder who is going to look after the young one. And then if there are discord and conflict between the children and the parents, some disciplinary action has to be taken. Either side can go overboard and leads to a lot of problems. So the grandparents can be the safety net between this. And I know that because we cared for my father-in-law, how often he was there to take the side of the child when the child was not doing the homework, child was not pronouncing the words properly, all those kind of things, being rude. And he really, I always said, spare the rod and spoil the child, Papa. And he would say, no, that's not right. You have to spare the rod. Your child will be quite all right. So we need the grandparents there for that safety net. And then, of course, the children feel that sense of fulfillment because it's part of our Indian culture to take care of our parents. And when you do that, you feel that you've done your duty. And so these are the challenges and the plus points of when people live with their children. So now I think this is something I'm just stating the obvious. I'm sure every one of you would agree, and they probably have more points to bring up, and we can have that in the Q&A. But here are some suggestions which are easy to talk about, but in the actual practicality of it, it requires attention and concentration and a discipline to do these things. But it's important to include the older person in family events. Ask for their opinion. I have seen one older person who told me, yes, there's going to be a wedding in our family. So I said, oh, so you must be so excited. And, he says, I don't know. They never ask me anything. They are doing it in some style. They don't want to hear my opinions, And the daughter-in-law who was sitting there, she scolded him and she said, we don't have to talk about these things in front of the doctor. And I said, no, I want to hear this. I want to hear this. This is important. The younger people must involve the older people in the daily life at home, household chores which they can do. And you have that feeling that they're going to make such a mess of it, or they're going to cut their finger, or they're going to do this. I can do it faster. It doesn't matter. There is no speed in all this. Let them do it and they will feel that they are empowered. Give as much autonomy as possible in every way as possible, I said. And then the older people feel so bored because especially if they're healthy and their mind is all right, how many books can you read? How many TV shows can you read? How many news channels can you see? And finally, they are bored. And so a very important thing is to negotiate a structure. Many older people I know, they say, oh, we have our breakfast and then we've done our puja already and now we go to sleep. By 11 o'clock, they're asleep because then we will get up for lunch. So this is a very, very bad way to live the day. And so a structured day is sometimes very useful for the older person. So that, and into this structure should be built in the exercise and the social connectedness, which we'll talk about. And then one very important thing is the younger people must not demand something, must not dictate. You have to do this. You have to do this. You must not do this. So I hear the refrain from the son and the daughter-in-law who come and say, but you know what? Daddy is so stubborn. So I said, what do you mean? Oh, because, we tell him to do this, we tell him to do that, he won't do it. So I said, but have you asked him whether he likes to do it? He doesn't. Then ask him what. So you see, there is a lot here of miscommunication. The younger people want something to be done. The older person doesn't want it to be done in that particular way. But he's not given a chance to even express anything. And that leads to a lot of ill feeling. And so everything possible to improve independence, mobility, and of course, the health needs. And this is one point that I want to talk about, independence and mobility. The two are very much linked. It's very common in our culture for the older person, when they go out, they usually have either bad knees or they have something else wrong with them. And what happens is the younger person is so helpful, takes their arm and guides them here. And whenever I see that older person being brought to my office with a very attentive family bringing them in, I don't like it. And you might say, why don't you like it? Because I want that older person to come in independent with the assistive device that has already been given to them. And no, why should I use this walker? My daughter-in-law is here. My son is here. That is the worst thing anybody can do, because we want the elderly people to be independent. And this is one thing I hope all of you who are listening will promote and not take it as doing a disservice to the older person. There's been an occasion when I have been so adamant. I have said, please sit outside and would you kindly, we brought the walker. Would you kindly go back to your car and get the walker and then let her walk into my office with the walker? And that is just to make the point that you can be independent. And you go anywhere in the developed countries where they look after their elderly so well. One of the things, of course, they don't look after as well as we do in the sense that they rarely have them in their houses, but they are independent. They're independent. They walk across a main street with their walker and everybody has to stop. There's huge penalty if you run over an older person. So that gives that kind of autonomy, which is very, very empowering. I want to dwell a little bit, I don't know how we're doing for time, a little bit on elder loneliness and sadness, which is, we talked about as one of the most important things, whether you're living alone or you're living with a family. And what is the reason? And it has been shown that if an older person is sad and lonely, their lifespan is decreased. Suicide is high among elderly people, and they usually use very lethal forms of suicide. And so we have to assume that there could be loneliness. And important thing is they must remain connected to relatives or friends or people in the community. This lack of connectedness is very, very important and has to be looked into and has to be somehow promoted. And the solution is now with modern technology, phones, computers, whatever means possible, make sure that the person continues to have phone calls or meet people every day. If they have a sensory impediment, such as hearing loss or vision impairment, that must be corrected as far as possible. And then by assuring assistive devices. The mobility loss, so they feel trapped at home. There are many assistive devices to improve mobility. But as I said earlier, people don't use them. They don't want them. They say, oh, he'll get used to it. I'm not an old lady. In Tamil, they say caregiver. I'm not a caregiver. I said, you are. I am also. Let's accept the fact and let's use a device to help you to walk and for you to feel safe. And then this business of lack of self-worth, feeling that they're a burden, feeling unwanted, all that can be improved by what I just mentioned, inclusive dynamics within the family. And just to highlight this point a bit more, even the World Health Organization has brought out the social isolation and loneliness can be reduced through face-to-face or digital contact, promoting age-friendly environments like parks and specific areas for senior citizens to meet. Then laws, it cannot just happen by itself. There have to be laws and policies that foster social connections. So this is something very important. And I just saw this very nice thing on the net and I thought I would share it with everyone here. This is a survey done in Singapore's elderly Chinese. Sharing and caring comes under the theme is a theme for, I'm very happy, my family is close, we care, we share, it's very joyful. And then there's a scenario of caring and no sharing. I always have that support. I don't need financial support. I have close relationship with siblings, good family, grandchildren. I feel blessed. So it's been cared for, but separate. And then caring is sharing. I think among family, you should take care of each other. If they can't help, only then you seek help from outside. And then there can be a situation of no caring and no sharing. And I will die and nobody will know. So that is really the worst, and we don't want that scenario. So and then I would just spend a few minutes to address the problem of the carer. The younger people who are looking after the older person, or it could be a paid carer, there's a lot of emphasis given that this carer will have burnout because day after day, many hours a day, sometimes whole days, if you're looking after your whole life is put on hold as you take care of this many needs of the older person. There is burnout and there is very bad consequences, not only for the older person, but for the carer. So the important thing is set the goals which are reasonable. If you can't give a bath every day, don't beat yourself about it, over it. You know, it's not possible. It doesn't matter if one day goes by without the full bath. It doesn't, but of course, food is something you have to give, drink is something you give. So some things are casualties on the way and don't feel bad about it. And when you feel frustrated and you feel angry that you are doing this day and night and your whole life is on hold, try to step back and try to understand what you are feeling and why. When you feel angry with the older person, I wish he would die now. Why am I in this situation? Try to think you are having burnout. You need to get emotional support. It's not your fault. This is what you are feeling. And never abuse the older person. This is very, very rampant. It is very rampant. Even the slighting words, the gesture of annoyance, all these things are very demeaning and a form of abuse to the older person, which is perhaps not so bad as the actual physical abuse that goes on, but it is abuse. And then the other thing is, if the older person was not a nice person when they were young, if they were very demanding and very difficult people themselves, then they tend to get less care from when they become old. But never judge the older person based on his or her earlier personality. Judge it for the good that it was, but not if they were you had a bad relationship with them. And I just flashed some assistive devices. This is just a few, just to tell you that these are all available, not as much as in the Western market, but now you can buy everything that's in the West, but they come at a very huge price. Some, not these, but some of the other commodes and other things may cost 40 to 50,000. There's no need for that. We have much cheaper alternatives, and maybe they don't look so smart, but they are there. And this is, of course, taken from a Western thing. Many people do have upstairs and downstairs, and these are chair lifts, just some simple devices to make make sure the person doesn't fall. And then, of course, you can install a lift. But these are all way above the average middle class families thing. But these are available for those who can afford it. These are all Indian products. This is an Indian style toilet. The worst thing for an older person with bad osteoarthritis of the knees is cannot use an Indian toilet, and many people just have to stand and do it, and that's such an indignity. And these are some devices which, it's difficult to keep these things clean, but this particular one can be folded up against the wall so that the whole family can use. And then this is a portable one which can be put over the commode so that person can use it and be wheeled to it. So I would like to end here by saying that we have discussed in the last 15 to 20 minutes that we need to be aware of the rights of the older person, and it is our duty to promote those rights. And we can use a lot of modern technology and devices and this community at large to promote social connectedness. And then the sharing and caring concepts are something we need to nurture. And caregivers need support and understanding. So with that, I would end, and I would really welcome your comments and your things.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, definitely. Now, I think before we just get into the Q&A, I want to request Sunanda Samal, who's here. She'll talk a bit about palliative care, which is very important when we are taking care of our elderly, those who are bedridden and probably in their final days. So she'll give information about palliative care and then connecting with Palliative. Sunanda, are you there?
Yes, Abhijit, I'm
yes,
there.
Is your video on?
Yes. Can you see me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
So very good evening to all of you. And I want to just thank Alka ma'am. It's a privilege to hear you again. This is the second time I'm hearing you. It's really very nice to hear you. And thanks, Abhijit, for inviting me to this session. So quickly, as I have just 5 minutes, so I just want to tell a little bit about palliative care and Palliative India. Firstly, my name is Sunanda, and I work in Palliative India as a regional coordinator for the Central India. So we do have regional coordinators for the North India, Northeast, and South. So coming to Palliative India is a national registered charitable trust formed in 2003. We are based out in Trivandrum. This organization is providing quality palliative care and effective pain relief. So this is headed by Dr. M.R. Rajgopal. He's the founder and the chairman of Palliative India, who was awarded the Padma Shri in the year 2018. So this is quickly about Palliative India. And coming to palliative care, so as per the WHO, palliative care is a multidisciplinary approach that improves quality of life of patients, which includes adults and children as well, and their families who are facing problems associated with life-threatening illness. So palliative care includes the treatment of serious health-related sufferings. It includes management of pain and other symptoms, and addresses psychological, social, and spiritual suffering of patients and their families. So here in nutshell, I would like to say like palliative care is not actually for the end of life. So what we usually promote is that it should start with diagnosis from the beginning, like, so we should not really wait till the end of life care stage. And also I'd like to say like there's something called home-based palliative care. Like we have organizations who have their home care teams who can approach for the patients who are really not, immobile, or they can't come to the setup where they have IPD or OPD. So this is what is about palliative care in short. For more details, I request all of you to visit our website. I'll be, yeah, so you have it on the screen, yeah. So you can contact our helpline, and we do have our websites. And I would like to say here that we do have trainings for volunteers, for doctors, for nurses. So for volunteers, it can be anybody. It can be a student, housewives, Rotarians, or anybody who really wants to know more about what exactly palliative care is. So we do have online trainings, so you can contact. So I'll be sharing the contact details of all the 4 regional coordinators. So wherever you are from, so accordingly you can contact for more details. Thank you, Abhijit. Is that enough?
Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So if you have any questions right now, would you please put it on the chat or raise your hands, and then we will ask you to speak up, please. Yes. Any questions, any doubts, please go ahead. This is your time.
I would prefer that they speak, because
okay.
yeah.
I mean, there's so many, so it becomes difficult to coordinate. All right, go ahead and talk, please. Please unmute and ask straight away. Any questions, any clarification? Yeah.
And if somebody can share their problems, the particular problems, that might be helpful for everyone.
Correct. Yeah. Right. If anybody is having any right now challenge that you're facing, how do you, yeah.
Somebody has written here, I've seen this, Nikhil Stravant. Please share how to deal with abusive elderly who are in a sane mind. Okay, so what they mean is this is not a person with dementia. The person is quite all right and is very abusive. Yes, it can be very, very traumatic for the rest of the family, because whatever you do, this person's behavior is very disruptive. And the advice that I have is that there is no point in confrontation, but this person has some unmet needs. Something is not quite right. And so I don't have an exact solution, but try to find out what it is. And it could very well be that he's feeling neglected, he's feeling disempowered, and you may not realize that you have done it, but look and see what you can do to include him in those activities. I give an example. I once had a lady who was not abusive, but she would do things like lock the door from inside when the others, younger people, went outside, and she would go to sleep. And they would tell her, she was quite normal. They would tell her any number of times, "Ma, please don't lock the door. We can't get in and you can't hear." And she said, "I'm just so frightened that somebody will open the door," because she came from a background where people could just open the door from outside, and she had the security. And so they sat with her and discussed, and there were also other issues which we tried to see. So there is something at the back of it. And we can't always blame them, but there are people with different types of personalities. And I do agree with you that sometimes it can be quite difficult. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. There's one more question. How do you encourage an elderly parent to exercise?
Oh my goodness, that is such a challenge, especially if this older person has got a fear of falling. Not only do people fall, but once they fall, their fear is also a disease. So one important thing is you must go with them. It's not the carer. You must go with them. You must invite them, even if it is for 5 minutes. And then if they've never exercised, even that 5 minutes is very difficult. So don't climb Mount Everest on day one, okay? Let's go for a walk and we'll do it for 5 minutes. My leg is paining, I'm breathing, my breathing is difficult. Okay, another 1 minute, just round that block and we are going to come back tomorrow, isn't it? And like this, it's a long drawn out thing, but that encouragement has to be there. And you have to make sure that the place is safe. They should not trip and fall. So that will just put an end to walking completely. So I think there has to be personal involvement in this, at least to start off with.
Yeah, any other question? Yes, Sam, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Alka. You did a fantastic job of, just covering it. Like you rightly said at the beginning, it's a huge topic, but you did it in such a very precise way, and that was really useful. I just wanted to add one bit of information to what the last question was on: how do you get an elder to exercise? So one of the things is that we could get them to do their daily chores in a way that it would involve a bit of movement. So if you don't do really exercise, when you say exercise, people get turned off. So you could get them involved in doing things which would make them bend or do things, stretch, things like that. That would help. And my question to you, Doctor, is there any course in geriatrics that one could do online? And is it only for science students or something? Would you be able to give, because the awareness is not there and people need to learn, like you rightly pointed out in the early part of the session, that there are very few geriatric surgeons or geriatricians around in India.
Oh, Sam, I'm sorry to say that I really don't know of any courses. And sadly, there are very few courses even for the medical people online, So in fact, I did one online course for medical students during the pandemic because I thought, what are they doing sitting in their homes? And 10 or 15 of us curated a program. It was highly successful and I want to run it again, but I somehow don't have the technical ability to do. I did it through Google Classroom. Google Classroom is a wonderful way in which you can just enroll at least 100 people and you can do it. So if there's somebody out there who's a technical person and will liaise with me, I don't mind curating a course for both lay people as well as for medical people. For the medical, I already have that course. I have the feedback. I have everything. I just can't run it by myself because I had one person who's a doctor doing it and he's now too busy to do it. So if somebody is there, yes, but I really don't know. If you do know, it'll be nice. You can share it. And your comment about make them active inside the house, even if they don't go, is a very good one, because some people are just sitting from morning to night, watching TV, going off to sleep. And it is a very, very unhealthy situation. And while you do say that, while we do say that walking around in the house is good, but, I always feel that work is something and exercise is something else. The difference being that when you work, it is not a coordinated, continuous use of muscle and etc. Whereas when you go for a walk, you're actually doing your heart, your heart is doing something continuously. And your joints, your balance, everything is working. Whereas when you work, it could be sitting down and working. Of course, that occupies your mind. And if it is something, we can't ask elderly people to, clean the house and do anything very big, so physical exercise. So I think there has to be, even if it is just static exercises in a chair. There are some people who have no balance. If they stand up, they will just keel over. That we have some exercises for a sitting person or a person who can just hold on to the back of a chair and every joint and muscle is exercised. So there are those general ability exercises and all that. I wish they were more freely available. I think many of them are available on YouTube, etc. And people could learn how to do it. Yoga is something which we have given so little attention to. But now I did find that yoga for the elderly, there are some, because they cannot do all the different types. So I think we need to explore yoga, those who are specialists in that. When you take Western medicine, like the physiotherapists trained in Western medicine, you ask them about yoga, they're totally blank. You ask me about indigenous medicine, I'm totally blank. So we need some kind of convergence between our system of yoga, which is worldwide appreciated, and physiotherapists to see how they can utilize that, because yoga is very good for balance and flexibility. It may not be so good for aerobic exercise. We need all those different forms of exercise. So this is an area, I'm sure there's somebody among the participants who is a yoga expert.
Yeah.
Doctor, just without hogging too much of your time, I just want to add, you said if somebody can help you do that program for the medical as well as the lay people, I volunteer.
Oh,
I have done my
you are on the job, Sam, and don't back out.
I will definitely help you with that, because I've done my gerontology from test. So I work with.
You're a medical person?
I'm not a medical person, but I've done my training in palliative care again from Palliative India.
And gerontology was part of that. Very good. And so how are your technical skills?
My technical skills are reasonably good. And I can get enough people. I have enough people who can support me.
Wonderful.
So I'll definitely be in touch with you.
Shall we start tomorrow?
Absolutely.
No, I'm very keen. We will start tomorrow. We'll start talking.
Yesterday, you asked me. It is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, this is great.
That's why I asked you about the course. So Sheikh will tell you more about me later. But thank you so much. That was a great time.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah. Okay, we'll just proceed ahead. I think there's a question. Okay, we'll get to Sister Janet DeMello, please, quickly. Yeah, and then we'll go to proceed to the chat questions. Sister Janet, you've raised your hand.
Yeah. I am just asking you one question. I have been looking after since so many years geriatric old age home, and my one doubt is over the ages patient with dementia is increasing, and we see a lot of helplessness in them. So how to sort? Means we feel bad for them, but sometimes not able to understand the way they are. So how to sort it out?
Yes, Sister Janet, you have raised a very, very important issue. And that is, not only do the older people have got this very severe memory loss, which prevents them from carrying out the activities of daily living, but they also have a lot of behavioral and psychological disturbances. And that is something which we need to understand. Now, all over the world, there are people trying to understand this. People are trying to reverse dementia and not much success. The drugs that are used for dementia now are not very useful. And the drugs which are in the pipeline seem to have some hope, but they're too early to tell. So I think the treatment part of it, we cannot wait for the treatment. And as you so rightly said, it is so difficult to look after them. One of the things is because they don't understand what is happening, or they're so distressed by something, it could just be that they're cold. It could be they're hungry. They cannot express that. And so they start doing a lot of things. If you try to care for them, they might think that you're coming to beat them up or something, and they may be violent. It's very difficult to understand, and they can be very, very stubborn and say that I want to do this, I must go out, I must go out, I must go out. So what you have to do, there are different techniques for different situations. So I'll just give you one or two techniques, and then I'm not really an expert in that, but one of the techniques which I saw was if a person insists on going out to meet her daughter, the daughter is not out there close by. So what you do is, you do not say, no, you can't go. If you confront the person, they will be more adamant and they will become violent. So what you have to do is you have to say, sure, we'll go out. And then you say, but first let's have a cup of tea. And then while you're having the tea and you're diverting the attention, their memory is so poor, they've forgotten that they wanted to go out. So it's a kind of a fooling them or diverting their attention, but you have to be extremely patient and know the techniques. And the other thing is, if they don't, for example, you say, you have to have your bath. It's time to have your bath. They don't want to have the bath. Why? Because it's cold. It's uncomfortable. They don't like it. Okay, shall we wait then? Shall we wait after some time? So that negotiation requires a lot of patience and a lot of knowledge that if the person is being difficult, that means again there's something. So overseas where they've studied this a lot, and I don't know whether Nightingale India from Bangalore, they deal a lot with dementia. There are other associations also for dementia. They might also have some techniques. And there are some sites also, I don't have it immediately with me, which will give you some help. I will look over those and send it over to you out of how to handle each and every situation and behavioral problem of the elderly person. Some of them, if they're very violent, they do need medication. We use drugs such as quetiapine, etc. But having said that, any drug has to be quickly tapered off as soon as possible, because the use of these antipsychotic drugs actually shortens their lifetime. So when I said this to a carer, he said, "Oh, I don't care about shortening of the lifetime, But my irritation and despair in my family has to be put to rest. So we had to do that. Yeah. We had to give sedatives.
Thank you.
The other thing is we should never give benzodiazepines to make them go to sleep. That is never to be given, because that causes more memory loss. There are other medications which can be given in very small doses.
Actually, they are very, very helpless. No?
You're talking about the helpless people.
They are they are, even though they are violent, but that is their helplessness. They can't help it. That's why they do it.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once we understand that, then we know how to really go about it. But I think everybody has to develop their own techniques. The important thing is never to say, no, what you're saying is wrong. They want the blue dress, give them the blue dress. If they want to go out, it's not possible. Don't go out, you can go out afterwards. Those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think, shall we move to the chat questions now?
Sir, can I just ask some question?
Okay. No, there is... okay, go ahead.
There's one about somebody's 88-year-old mother who gets her mood off, crying, sometimes very angry and violent, and she takes Lobazem 10 milligrams, not used. She used to be watching YouTube and all, and now they say she nowadays wants to go to an old age home, which we feel is not right. So do you mean, Evelyn Benher, that your mother herself wants to go to an old age home? Or you feel that you can't handle her anymore, and so you feel it should go. And then you say that you feel it's just not right. It is, if you get the right, there's nothing wrong really in sending a person to an old age home. If we feel that, we are doing a disservice, that's quite wrong, because if the old age home could look after them better, and your life can go on, and you can must keep contact with that older person by visiting them frequently. But yes, we would always try as far as possible to keep at home, but there's nothing wrong. But the problem for us is we don't have very good old age homes, and not that overseas also they have. Always something to do with institutionalization is not a very good thing, but it has to be done sometimes. And this Lobazem is for seizures, fits, or for what is it? That is something, if it is making her sleepy and all that, then that has to be changed. You have to go to your doctor and see. There are other drugs for angriness and violence, and that is a drug called quetiapine, but you'd have to go to your doctor if it is making her too sleepy.
Ma'am, Dr. Alka, I'm Dr.
Patricia, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm your student, ma'am, from batch of 84.
Hello, Patricia. Yes, I remember you. Yes.
Okay. I used to have allergy. I used to have very allergy problems during MBBS, and I came to you, and you took care of my mom also. She was under your unit for 6 months.
Yes.
She had a reamputation. I'm running a mission hospital, ma'am, like a 10-bedded mission hospital in Guntur. Like, I've resigned from the regular thing. We've been doing mission service all our life, Samson and me. I don't know if you know Samson, he did MD in community medicine. So Vijay Jayachandran sent this link. So I just got it just before you started the meeting. So I wanted to see you.
And so are you in Guntur?
Yes, ma'am. I'm in Guntur. I came for my daughter's delivery in Dallas. Right now I'm in Dallas.
Oh, you're in Dallas. Okay.
Yeah, but we're running a mission hospital for 12 years. The church gave up, on mission hospitals and all that. So my husband and I prayed and decided that why blame the church for not running the hospitals? Why don't we do it? So we used our own funds and we started this.
Creditable.
I've been working without salary for 12 years. And I went back to Vellore and I got the CMC sponsorship back for the Lutheran Church. So we have 10 MBBS students studying in Vellore. They've 4 of them have completed. And since I'm running a mission hospital, our beds are not full, So I've been asking patients and family and friends to just send their parents to me. If they have a minimum medical attention, like an indwelling catheter, or they need their diaper to be changed, or a bed sore, or just to have some time, because we pray every day. We're saying they'll be in contact with a lot of our staff.
Like a daycare? Is it like a daycare?
Yeah.
They come during the day and then go back. Wonderful. That's a very nice thing you're doing.
Daycare? No, some stay for a month also.
Okay.
Some children are in Hyderabad and US, so they're not there and they feel guilty to put them in old age homes.
Okay.
So I keep the hospital open. Anyone who wants to send their parent or children, babysitting, anything we'll do. Because I have staff, I have the beds, I have the manpower. We even cook food
Patricia, if I could just interrupt you, do you have a physiotherapist?
No, ma'am, I don't have a physiotherapist, but if they come on, I can call
get a physiotherapist, because as I always said when I did my home visiting, more important than the doctor is the physiotherapist, because the physiotherapist is the one that will really mobilize them. I don't know whether you're talking about people who are absolutely bedbound, but even the bedbound ones, they need to have passive exercises done. And if they could pass on that information, that techniques, because they really do it well, to the nursing staff, and the nurses will resist and say, this is not our job. But what I always feel is all of us should do everybody else's jobs when we're looking after older people, So, and then, one of their problems is they get obstruction, they can't pass stool, impacted stool, and removing that is a difficult process. You must prevent it. But these are all things, impacted stool is something which is so distressing for a patient, and nobody likes to do it. It's a difficult job, but I feel that if you go forwards and show people that it's not a very pleasant job, but you do it and teach everybody else to do it, prevent impacted stool, you can really make people's lives very, very helpful. Yes.
We had someone who didn't pass stool for 6 months, and we just prayed and the stools came, ma'am, because 6 months.
Your prayer was a good laxative. Wonderful. Write it in a medical journal, and then you did other things as well, I'm sure. That's very nice to see. Dr. Patricia, one of our students, so good. Yeah.
I wanted to suggest, ma'am, if there are entrepreneurs in this group, if they can consider opening old age homes as an investment. And I know
there's many of them, Patricia. The private sector has come into geriatrics in a big way because they realize there's a need. And of course, there's a lot of money in it because there are lots of elderly people who do have the money. Unfortunately, they are very highly priced. And I feel very diffident about suggesting any of them. We have a lot of them in Coimbatore, very, very highly priced. So I think this is something which mission hospitals, instead of running hospitals, which, like you said, there's too much competition. Why don't you all go into geriatrics in a very big way? Go into geriatrics. There's a lot you can do, not only doing this, but also preventive care. So you can do something called comprehensive geriatric assessment, prevent them from falling, promote their. So I really, if anybody else is there in the participants who are medical people, we can have a chat together to talk about the CGA and how we can promote and prevent ill health and promote good health. Patricia, this is something we can talk about. Yeah.
Ma'am, I just want to send greetings from Dr. Sarla. She's 93. I didn't have enough time to ask her to join the Zoom meeting, but she joins Zoom meetings regularly. She gives messages, word of God regularly every day.
She's a wonderful person.
Yeah. And she's the one referring patients to our mission hospital, gynae patients. So thank you, ma'am. I loved seeing you. God bless you and sir and your family. Thank you for the session.
Thank you, Patricia.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I think there is some questions in the chat. There is a person who has continence and he's with a caretaker, and this person is unwilling to go to the doctor.
Oh, with incontinence?
Yeah, incontinence, yeah.
Okay. No, incontinence is something which I'm not saying 100% can be treated. I can't actually read that, but you say it's an incontinence problem, so I'm just saying it as a general thing. I don't know which one is the incontinence. I can't find it. But yeah, incontinence is something which can be very easily assessed by a person who knows about it, not your general physician, because they don't know about it. But certainly, I hate to send people to specialists, but you might have to send to a neurologist. Many gynecologists will look at stress incontinence, one type of incontinence, because that's in their field. But the other one, which is very common, is urge incontinence. And that happens even to normal people. Once the urge comes, they have to run to the toilet. They cannot delay it. Now, that is something which even normal people with normal mentation find very difficult. And if you've got bad knees, you can't find the bathroom on time, and then it's a disaster, it's an indignity, and there is a small tablet you can take. And, it's a small pill, an antimuscarinic thing. But, you have to have the right doctor to prescribe it, because it does have a few side effects, but it's highly effective. So I don't know what you can do about taking this person to the doctor, but maybe the best bet is to take to a urologist. And I hope they don't do a whole lot of tests for the person, but I don't have an easy answer to that. But that is cure.
Right. I think the next question is from Janet only. So I think she's already spoken, right? Yeah, let me just figure out.
Yes, I saw Galaxy 10 to everyone. I know a person who is alone with only a caretaker. He has incontinence but refuses to go to a doctor. Somehow we have to get this person to a urologist because he's a male. I think he's yeah. So please do, Galaxy, whoever you are.
Yes. Yeah. And I think there is one. Yeah, I've been looking after okay, that's Janet DeMello. She already asked. Okay. Then there is a question. I've been looking after my bedridden mother-in-law for 18 years. That you answered, I think, right?
No, my bedridden mother with Parkinson's. Yeah, very difficult to know. There's no emotional, physical. I really feel burnout as I have 2 small children, and it becomes very difficult at times. How can I manage this burnout without? So I will tell you one thing. Palliative India, is the person is here. Palliative India has a helpline for burnout in people who are taking care of like your situation. And Sukhdev, is it? Is a helpline. And correct me, please.
It's Sukhduk helpline, ma'am.
Sukhduk.
Yes,
so please, can you send that information to this participant and give her some advice? And then, yes, with Parkinson's disease, it is very, very difficult because they're so stiff, and caring for them can be extremely difficult. But I suppose you have all the best anti-Parkinson drugs. If not, then you do need to at least have that. But in the last stages of Parkinson's disease, they do become resistant to every drug. So then you do have to have a full-time carer to look after the person and make sure that they don't get bed sores and other things.
Yeah, there's a question that has directly come. It's a little anonymous, but I hope you can answer that. I have an elderly person who has lost their spouse and is feeling lonely. Will it be a good idea to encourage them to get married? Again, in India, people don't talk about it.
No, I don't think that it can come from an outside person at all. It cannot. I don't think that we as outsiders can encourage anybody to get married unless they have expressed that they are looking for a partner.
Okay.
If so, then yes, but I don't think that is something that we can. And some people may feel extremely offended because it just depends on how their relationship was together. So if it comes from that person, I don't know. It's very new to me. I haven't thought of it, but yeah, not as a suggestion from outside. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think then the next one is how to make an elder realize after he gets up after an afternoon nap thinking it's morning and refuses to accept it's night.
Okay, so this person is having a disorder of sleep-wake cycle and is probably in a delirium. So he cannot understand. So there's something wrong with this person. It's not a normal person. It could be dementia, but dementia and delirium are little different, but the cognition, and that means the brain power intelligence is not quite right. And if it's dementia, then, that's a different issue. If it's delirium, then that means it's reversible. And delirium is something in which sleep-wake cycle is disturbed and they don't know what time of day it is. So you do need to have this person looked at by a physician to find out what they have. Because if it's delirium, it can be reversed. If it's dementia, it cannot be. And delirium is usually precipitated by something else. Either it's heart failure or some new medication has been given, etc. Now, when this person gets up in the morning and says it's night, it's better not to try to convince them. Never use logic to an older person. It just makes it more annoying for them. It is, I said it is, and you said it is not. It goes on like that. So just said, okay, so that's what you think about it. Come on, let's do something. And as I said, the important thing is never to confront them. Always validate and say, okay, so that's what you think, but let's go and see. And then when the breakfast things are there and other cues will come that it's actually morning, then the person may accept, but never say, no, it's not night, it's morning. That just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think you answered this one, doctor. My mom was 88 years old, often gets some mood, crying, and sometimes very angry and violent. She takes Lobazem 10 mg.
Yeah, I did say that.
Yeah, you did answer that.
Lobazem sounds like a benzodiazepine, which is a
Correct,
sleeping
yeah.
medicine, but sometimes this can be even given as a fit medicine. So
Right.
this person can have a disordered behavior by this medicine. It could be that the medicine needs to be changed or something else needs to be given. This person may even be depressed. Depression
Right.
is very common in the elderly person, and
Yeah.
they do benefit from antidepressants. So
Right.
your mother, Evelyn, needs to have medical consultation.
Yeah. Leela Pai is asking about, it's very difficult to look after dementia and Alzheimer patients at home. That's all. She's just made a comment. So,
of course, it is extremely difficult. I saw one person, I was so impressed how she looked after her dementia mother. What she did was, of course, she had the means to do it. She put in a lot of safety measures on the staircases and all that, so the mother wouldn't pass that and fall down. But everywhere else, she had very little furniture just on the side so that she wouldn't bang herself and fall down. And she allowed her mother to walk around naked, do whatever she wanted to do, but made sure that meals were given, and she had to leave the house. She was alone, so the carer would come and look after her. And if she was incontinent, this person wouldn't wear a diaper, so the house was just free without carpets, and she just mopped it up. So now I was just taken aback because I've never seen anything like that. But then I know that this cannot be done by everybody. So there is no doubt, especially if the older person is incontinent and will not wear a diaper, then it's very hard to look after them at home. So I don't have a solution for you, but if there's a behavioral disorder, like they're violent and all those things, then only medications to be given. Otherwise, it's how you can see a way out.
right. Yeah. Yes, there is a comment by Shanti. My mother is 100. This is not a question, but a couple of tips I have learned from her. She resolved she would not ever grumble and complain in her mid-70s, and she continues to be a joy to look after. She also began doing some basic foot exercises, and she continues to do them every minute of her waking hours. She also resolved to learn hymns by heart, and she continues to sing them. She loves singing but can't hear, so we use a USB drive that has hymns which she can see on a TV screen. We do a lot of coloring and seed art. So
this is a fantastic example of how, Shanti, you have seen, your mother, and you know what she likes. And music is something absolutely wonderful for a person with dementia. And there are many studies also there. So, and you know what your mother likes and you're just expanding on that. And so this is what all of us have to do, use our own technique, using the principle that this older person has a need. What is that need? Let me find that need and try to meet that need. So if you can do that, you've done a great job. Yes,
Right.
I think that's so helpful to everyone, Shanti.
Yeah. From Lena Jacob, my mother has dementia and sometimes she's in very low spirit and angry. How do we cheer her up?
So, yes, if she's angry, then, it's something that she wants, but she's not able to tell. So you have to observe over the days and see what it can be. But yes, certainly being with that person and offering certain things can help, but that's something which you have to be. I think companionship and being there and diverting her mind, these are all things which can be done, but then don't force it, but being available is important.
Thank you, doctor.
Yeah. What to do, Delcy Rose Thomas, what to do if my father and father 70 age, mother 66 age, is taking care of my sister who's 33, who's bedridden with arthritis, and I am at my husband's house with 5-year-old son. Please advise. And both want to shift to a smaller, more easier place of stay.
So it is mother and father who want to shift with the sister? Is that what they're saying? Or
yeah, Delcy, would you clarify
Delcy,
that?
would you say
actually my sister, my father and my sister doesn't want to shift. My mother is okay, because she has to take care of the house, and I mean it's like very difficult. She's getting old.
So they want to move away from you, or?
I'm at my husband's place. They are at their place, like at my my father and mother, and my sister is at their place,
their own house.
And yes, in their own house, and I am at my husband's place.
So
it's like about 5 hours difference.
Okay. They don't want to shift to a smaller place. What is their problem?
Means
you
my
want them
father.
You want them to shift.
I also want them to shift, and my mother also wants to shift. But my father and my sister doesn't want to shift because my sister is already bedridden. She's like, she cannot go out. She doesn't, there are no ramps and all that. She can only move with a wheelchair.
Yes.
So so she doesn't go out, but she's very stuck in that place. Like she's
I think this is something which you would have to look at the pros and the cons, because when people who, especially when they're disabled, they get used to a particular environment, they are very, very worried. Dislocating somebody from where they are used to and going to another place is very, very difficult. So especially if they are disabled, they are used to this place. All that you can do really is to see what else you can do to make their lives more comfortable. For example, if it is your mother who has to do a lot of housekeeping, you might have to invest some money and make it easier. For example, nowadays, many people have put in dishwashers. In our Indian families, we don't usually think that a dishwasher will be, cost effective. Do we have the water? But it makes a big difference to your, the energy you have to put in. So, I'm sure you have thought of all those things, but look again at your house and see how you can ease the burden. And it is not a good thing to actually move people away from the places that they are in, though you might have very important reasons for that. So this is something that you have to discuss within the family, but I would agree with those who don't want to shift, improve the reason why that place is not convenient.
Yeah, and since you also deal with like old people, like, so my sister is also like, she's only 33, but she's very, as you said, very stuck on her place. Like she doesn't want to move outside, or she gets angry very easily, and it's really been a long time, like almost 8 years. She's bedridden. She
So your
used to walk, but
sister, yeah, your sister as a younger person being disabled, her life has been put on hold. I think there must be depression going on there, and you have to have her assessed that part. The fact that she doesn't want to go out means that she must be having a lot of depressive ideation. You need to address that. And she must be very frail, osteoporotic, and all these things. But I really am surprised why in this day she is having arthritis and become bedridden, because there are a whole, maybe she had it a long time and she's got a lot of contractures or other things. But today there are a lot of, and she's young. Would you still like to reassess whether she can have the modern chemotherapy for rheumatoid arthritis? Because these biological agents, they are very powerful, expensive, but they can do a lot. But it all depends. So would you like, I don't know how much you've done, taking her to a rheumatologist. It has to be a rheumatologist. So I leave that to you to explore her underlying illness, whether there can be some improvement. And number two, if she has undetected depression, it might be important to look into that.
Right, right. So I think with that, we've come to the end of this topic today. So thank you, Dr. Alka. I think just one question would be, what are the kind of doctors do we need category-wise that we should approach at different? Would you just mention some specializations that are generally to be, because I think what I've seen is most of the people are just going to their family doctor for the same thing, and they don't even know that for this situation you need to go to this doctor. And also, can you name some?
That is so difficult because of the way our health system is organized from the professional aspect, that many of our whole medical profession is specialty oriented, like the United States. It is not primary care based as you have in the UK and some of the European countries. The government of India and many of us are trying very hard to promote family medicine. The regular GPs may not know much about family medicine. They may be gynecologists who are working in this thing. So if you go today to a family doctor, as it should be, you should go to your family doctor who should know enough about geriatrics and other things to direct the person here to the correct place or deal and resolve the issues themselves. But we don't have that kind of family doctor at the moment. So usually what happens is, if it's a heart problem, they're with a cardiologist. But the cardiologist doesn't know anything about the urinary incontinence. And so then they have to go. So there's a whole galaxy of specialists that our patients have to go to, and they get so confused with all of that. So I really can't answer that question for you because our system is just very difficult. We have to go to specialists, but maybe an internal medicine person might be the person who can at least flesh out the different systems which are abnormal. He can or she can deal with that. And I think the internal medicine person is the best. And then they can direct to the urologist or gynecologist.
Yeah. What are some of the things churches, communities, societies can do to make things better for the elderly? What can you suggest? Some activity steps? What are some of the things they can do?
I think churches and all that social organization, religious and social organizations can do a lot, not for the really ill elderly, but what you could do is you could facilitate those elderly people to be taken for treatment. So, you can use technology. I was part of one and then it didn't take off the ground, but we got local people to donate 1 hour a week so that somebody said they can spend 2 hours on a Tuesday afternoon, and they were put on a database. And if anybody needed help on Tuesday at that time, that person was contacted and they went over to that person's house. So the society can go in there and assist people to go to the hospital or babysit that older person when somebody else went out. And so the church organizations, but it requires a lot of organization to do it, but they could help at home by doing something like that, and then organizing church occasions, social occasions for the elderly. It could even be playing bridge or playing carom or something, open house, and daytime, nighttime, whatever. And, so I think the faith-based organizations can do a lot, but even community organizations could do to take care of the well elderly and give assistance to those who need it also on an individual. But it requires a lot of organization.
Very cool. Yeah. I think so. I think with that, if everybody's done, anybody's wanting to still ask something, she's been talking. I was just amazed to see her strength and her zeal for this subject. For 1.5 hours continuously, she has been talking, and it's really, really amazing. We really feel, ma'am, God has blessed you with a gift and a heart.
I just feel for the older person so much.
Yeah. No,
and really, I see the frustration of the younger people. I see the frustration, and I've also been frustrated looking after my in-laws. And now when I look back and I say, I only wish I knew and had the patience those days. So let me pass it on to someone else if I can.
Right. Yeah, really, there is not much attention given to this subject, and I think it's quite evidenced in the fact that so many joined today and they could not get in. So we had to send the YouTube link, over 100, so that's how. So we are so thankful that you gave your precious time to us freely, graciously.
Not at all.
May God bless you, your family, your loved ones, and give you good health and continue to give you strength to serve and people and be a blessing like this.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, God bless everyone. Take care.